Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And we are today in a moon day, Jupiter hour. Yes, this is a moon day, Jupiter hour. Ascendant in midheaven, ruled by the anaretic degree of Virgo and Gemini, which is given still a Mercury retrograde, but it's a fascinating one. Because we are going to talk about things we already addressed, like the lunation that's going to happen in Aquarius, like the Sun square Uranus with Mercury and Mercury Cassini square Uranus, like the entire Jupiter-Saturn square, Mars-Saturn square, the T-square with Venus in Virgo, Venus opposing Saturn. And I just want to talk about the purges that are happening kind of towards this full moon in Aquarius. It's a big culminating, releasing one that touches on so many points, whether it's the ongoing purges of the eclipse season, because it's involving Mars and Venus ruling of Ketu and Rahu, the Uranus upcoming retrograde, and the Urano-Algol, culmination of the Urano-Algol, the points of Venus in Leo, okay, kind of like the Me Too stuff, but also the Barbie stuff, okay, a lot of divorces, but also a lot of revelations. It involves with Lilith approaching Ketu, okay, so, and Lilith on the point where we had for one of the eclipses, one that Lada Duncheva mentioned, the Zendaya, the no longer harloting myself for, okay, for my life, okay, or addressing the points of where we were in situations where that was maybe not occurring, which is not necessarily good or bad. It's just like, hey, those events were happening because of those circumstances. And so there is a deeper understanding. We are going over kind of 2016, 2017, but also culminating things since 2012 with this Neptune in the sky, since 2008 even, okay, as Pluto is about to prepare to go one last time to Capricorn. Since Uranus has been in Taurus tropically since 2018. So, and the whole involvement of Andromeda and Aries and Chiron, okay, so Chiron and Aries making this beautiful trine to retrograde Mercury and the Sun. If you're not you're not astrologer, I will explain of what are the events that are associated with all of that. So bear with me. I do not give up the technical part. This is how I learned astrology. I listened to the introduction of when they mentioned the difficult technical parts, and that is how I learned of all the techniques for astrology. So if you're interested in understanding things, don't skip this part. And I will tell you what Feynman told to his sister. If you don't understand, watch again, watch again, watch again, watch again, watch again, until you do understand. It's not rocket science, but we are making rockets sometimes. So let's begin. Let's begin with your personal lives. Let's begin with all the gossips and the yellows and the this and the that. It's a very liberating time, okay? The rebellion just comes out of you. You might find yourself young again. Great for the Sun remediation at this time is any archetypal work with Regulus, fixed star, and the great work of Christopher Warnock and the Sphere and Sundry. Just don't get all my talismans. I need to order some too. And this is a great time to reconnect with your shine. And some complexes we have, and we all have complexes about everything, can come to light with this one. With the Mercury, it's about communication. There could be something artistic. There could be a point of leadership, a relationship with fame. It is wearing your heart on your sleeve, but it's also a word can be said and misinterpreted. Something weird can be said, and that can be taken to many places. For example, I recently found the Tom Waits song of God's Away on Business. It has a line that says, "I'd sell your heart for $1," and I was like, that was not why I was posting that. And then I was like, this is very weird when we talk about cultures of cannibalism that are involved with the plague. And right now, astrologically, we are actually towards an end of a war. Okay, so people bet on the Ukraine war. And you say, oh, this is good news. Wait, because there is going to be plague news. It's not necessarily really plague, but definitely are going to target individuals with medical welfare. And I challenge you to pay attention. If you know someone or loved one that passed away as a result of, well, the vaccine was general, but of COVID, I challenge you to check what this person did in their lives, okay? Both to live for their legacy, and I challenge you, okay, in that way, because there are many things I discovered. Okay, we had astrologer that did the 22nd degree of to kill and be killed, and degree theory, and that is in the chart of WHO very strong, and that was deceased Nicola Stojanovic. He suddenly got COVID and died within a couple of days. I addressed this in Water Expands Upon Cooling, entirely dedicated to the 22nd degree and entirely inspired by him, and a great reverence to others that introduced him. But we also have a fortunately living astrologer that had to comply with a lot of things because he was, targeted. And that got very weird. He's very successful. He gave a lot for humanity, a lot of the knowledge of, yes, I'm not going to address exactly for the credit because I don't want to put the fire on him for saying what I just said. And I don't even know if he knows it. Okay? It's just like, I hope he guesses. He has good friends that would explain this to him. But the thing is, that he was very much supportive of building community and given a lot of education free, and a lot of what I know that I'm able to do right now is thanks to also his knowledge, the knowledge of the people that he brought to the community. And then he had very severe COVID, and he took 1 shot, 2 shots, until he took his vitamins, and then it began to feel better. Yes, and it was particularly cruel. I will not address this, but it was particularly cruel, especially for the environment. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe. Now that I understand, this is targeting. So if somebody you find targeted by, whether it's the monkey thingy or whatnot, and they actually suffer, then I guess hopefully not die, but please know that this is medical welfare target, very likely, and you want to check of what this person was doing in their lives, because they probably have been doing something that is important, whether they understand this or not. Okay, for example, the fact that we can do astrology outside of the cult, that's pretty, we can pay attention, okay, we know the myth, we know the symbolism, then we can pay attention of what is done, and we can also make opinion of what is done. Okay, if you have an entire currency, thanks to Ladonchev, I know that digital currency of global currency that is based with strong algo, I'm like, there's very likely not, they very likely did not mean what we think they mean with algo. But you can get to know for what they did. Okay, or you have, you can make comparisons between this person's midheaven and that Taliban's midheaven, and you say, well, that's around 1996. Well, that's the Peter Rings, that's the Peter. It's not only Brussels, so a lot is coming out to the forefront, and in your personal lives, you're going to see that as a lot of purges. You're no longer not a follower, you're not behaving well, you're not keeping the etiquette, you're not, and you might, and all parties do that. So people become a lot more direct. And if you have complexes, especially now with the sun, okay, this will come out, but it breeds radical acceptance. It's like, yes, they've been in the ego. Yes, I can understand why they've been in the ego. And there is also great forgiveness. that is encouraged with this one, and radical acceptance. Okay, and the art is very fascinating. Okay, I just recently had something really cool with art that was happening. But the art stories are very fascinating, and the art is now associated with rebellion and with the financial system and with the Peter rings and the way that's been treated. There's a lot of eurekas, and even rebellion. Okay, even kind of artists rebelling each other. They're like, hey, you guys have not been so inclusive either. So, what the Sun and Uranus are doing is they trine Eris and Chiron, so that those who are, there are many people not included for various reasons, all of them don't have the perfect etiquette. And they all come to the forefront, and now they're receiving certain limelight, or they're being addressed, or they're being included, or they're being this, or they're being that. And there's a chance to heal what the place in you that was put in the margins because you didn't stand to their etiquette or their PC or their political agenda, okay? And you can call on Andromeda for this because she's the great reconciler of the things. And we can have a deeper understanding of the marginalized and who are the marginalized, which is surprising. Okay, it's just surprising. Okay, if I attended, for example, in Israel, even before that, when I was in Netherlands, I was like, oh, who are the homeless people? Because I was homeless for some time, and I was like, oh, but this is every child that fights with their parents. It's like, yes, I'll go out, you know. But I remember when I was 5, 6 years old, my mother was like, yeah, if you don't like this, you can open the door and you can walk out. I didn't walk out, but it affected my life. In some way, and I understand where it was coming from because they were freedom loving. They wanted to give me freedom. They didn't want anybody to feel entrapped. But I was angry. Okay, but that created that same entrapment. But other children, they walk. If I would be, I don't know, another age or another this or another mood, I would like, yes, I walk. I go out, and then. Of what happens with these children, and I began to tend to that. So by the time we had war here and kidnapped children here, I said, okay, if I'm just going to tend to the child that I see on screen, I don't tend to why this child was kidnapped in the first place. So I want to tend to what happens with these children. And I learned about expandable children, and I learned about the extortion of children, and then I learned about who are the people being extorted. I was like, oh my God! Those children are leaders, are business people, are elite bankers. Those are the. Oh, there they are. Okay, those that survived, and for the voices that didn't survive, you learn. Oh, for the pedophilia, it was to cover up. And you're like, what kind of a person would do pedophilia of children and torture of children as cover-up? Yes, because they train them to basically be the robots of the presenters in society. And that's, this person gets this job, get that job, get that job. And when you begin to learn about it and speak with it, they try to do this to you for the best they can, also psychically. And then it's like, oh wow, the rabbit hole is indeed deep. I was just wondering what these children, because I was like, yeah, they kidnapped by welfare, some of them not registered at birth, and then the information's kind of come out. It was like, oh, they're going to do an MK Ultra here, again on a large scale. Well, can I warn people? Well, to the best of my ability, but there is such existential gap between this truth and the everyday lives. And so... you really get into those places where now things are coming to a little more full fruition, again, to the big purge. Okay, you will hear a lot of people saying a lot of things. I remember I even had astrological colleagues that I thought were vouching for a person that did sexual harassment, and I'm like, what? Like, well, but they did sexual harassment. Like, why are we covering up? Like, why are we this? Whatever. Like they probably knew that person was involved with way more things with sexual harassment. If the expandable children was celebrity, and B, that they were just being expanded and their head is being offed with to rejuvenate for the system and not address the real thing. But they couldn't so much as say this in words. And I'm like, oh, so that's what they meant. Because that seemed just so weird. Okay? There are also, at this time, we may discover astrological placements of a lot of celebrities, but also of celebrity astrologers. And there may be astrological discoveries that are going to be eureka, that are going to just be fun and fascinating. Okay, we think, oh, I was graven at this aspect in synastry, or this aspect. You see, like, oh, that person has this aspect in synastry. But like, no, I'm not. Okay, Alada has a great synastry course out there. And I say, oh, let's check a compatibility for this person, for that person. I was like, yes, which yoni type? I was like, oh, no, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean not to go all that way. Well, if you did, then that would be the level of, in numbers, what sexual satisfaction you two could have. So the ancients knew a bit about that. And so the course is running for sale. That's the moon compatibility course for Lada. So that is really fascinating astrological stuff is coming up. You might discover, okay, some person, for example, asked, oh, why doesn't anybody show the natal chart anymore? I was like, I didn't even know it was a thing. So no, you don't need the natal chart of a person to do magic on them, but you want to be cautious, because if you target a person like me, you might not be here to regret it. And I wouldn't know what happened, because I had to return to sender known and unknown. And that's it. I didn't go about my life. Okay? And if I do know, then I begin to speak and leak information. If you're intelligence agents, you would be exposed, darling. So that is, if when it's my time, it's my time. But when it's not my time, then I myself ask, why didn't I die? Why didn't I? Because it's, and then, it's like, okay, I needed to talk about this. I needed to do this stunt, and also Kunstlerin, Kunstlerin. For those who understand, that they understand what this is about. Yes, so you will have a lot of what seems to be even gossip. Okay, for you might be a part of the popcorn. Like I got to be a little bit. You might be a part of the popcorn. Somebody eats popcorn and watches you the show, and that's just, it's just the brighter, lighter aspect of Leo, where there is a show, and people are looking for entertainment, and sometimes you're looking for entertainment. And sometimes, someone's like, I'm your entertainment, I'm going to make you the entertainment. And I was like, okay, I get why you did that. But it's Leo times. If you're natal Leo, you might be more used to this energy. If you're not natal Leo, like myself, you might think, where is this even coming from in you? So people are looking to be entertained. And within their entertainment, definitely certain things come in, okay? Definitely certain things come in, certain behaviors. Remember that Lilith is ruled by Venus, which is at the T-square, so there's going to be a new way of, we're purging the old way of balancing things, okay? But there is some sort of compassionate or humorous, yes, or even a dignified way for to do the things. I invite you, for whatever comes up, if this is intimate relationship of yours or parental relationship of yours or something, I really invite you to take a look at yourselves in the situation, because you might be like, hey, I was not being a saint here either, or I was, because of circumstances, then a certain sides of me were coming up, certain behaviors of me were coming up. It might not have come up at other circumstances or settings. And I invite you to like examine this more maturely, because this is a situation where both or all sides have not been quite saints. And this is because we have all been in positions where we were a bit harloting ourselves, okay? Or we were in situations where was some extortion was made, or something was made, or something happened. And it doesn't necessarily mean you are people pleasing. It can mean that your very eros was directed in a certain way, and your way to kind of get a hold of your own willing consent was to express it, okay? Very much like after the Me Too, there were a lot of streams. Okay, there were people that were litigating, there were the people that were going into education, there were the people that were doing sex-positive sex education, like myself, which means we haven't succumbed to the battle over what we don't want, but we said, okay, I'm going to go for what I do want, and I'm going to celebrate that and try to move towards this direction, which exposed MK Ultra, which exposed the cult, which exposed the many things that were the blockage for me to be having, you know, sex I'm feeling good with before, during, after. And so that theme is being recalibrated, okay, recalibrated right now. There can be a lot of insecurities attached to the issues. Lilith stuff are still coming in the forefront, and that's again with the astrological thing. It's like, oh, that was Lilith, that was the Lilith thing, that was the Lilith thing here. But then you might have it, that was the Lilith, well, but that too was the Lilith here, but that too was the Lilith here. And there is a conjoining of healing and wounding that is associated even with Lilith itself. It's like how two people that are even well aware can succumb to these dynamics because of what the constrictions, okay, whether it's financial constrictions, whether it's your ability to express yourself artistically and to be alive, your ability to express your voice and be alive, the limitations to the opinions that you can express and still, okay, stay, the level of visibility you can have and still be alive. And there are a lot of polarities and even erotic polarities formed around these things, which I invite you again towards the Lilith eclipses, to explore in your private lives, okay? What, if you're, you know, in an erotical duo here, with the symbols of Sol, Uranus, and Mercury, and the squares with Venus, and the Mercury ruling Venus and Venus ruling Lilith, is very likely that there's something that you came to liberate together yourself of. Can have even to do with sexual trauma, can have even to do with standards of beauty, gender issues, especially with trying to Aries, can have things that you didn't get before, and now you kind of see them in a different perspective. So you very likely came to liberate something. This is important to keep in mind, because some, even in under these skies, it can seem like no matter what we say to each other, no matter how we fight, no matter how many times we break away, no matter what stunts we do, no matter what weird behavior we would display towards one another, there's a glue here that still attaches. I would recommend for you to wait until the eclipses come through. I would recommend to you to wait until the Lilith Ketu, to wait until the Lilith eclipses, to wait out whatever transits are happening in the sky, to really look at synastry and composite fair and square, okay? It's like that's like, oh, those are the things that brought you two together, and they're going to be things like that, whether it's romantic or business or whatnot. And those are the things that are the day. What I want to emphasize for something I actually learned from someone who was portrayed towards me, and this is the day after revolution. Okay, didn't invent it, but he was teacher of this politics and history of politics. And so, yes, that happened right now. But this is where I got the information, okay? And this is of the day after the revolution, okay? And that, by the way, had guided me in the Me Too crisis. It was like the day after the revolution, we need to get along. Like the artificial divisions of whatever they will put, at the day after the revolutions, people still want to have intimate relationships. People still want to have sex. People still want to make income. There are going to be some sort of politics. We don't know what politics, but because some sort of politics will still be. People still need, I don't know, medical care or whatnot. For the day after the revolution, what do you envision the day after the revolution? And there are relations right now, especially in these times, that come for the times of revolution. Just like there are leaders of revolution and leaders of the after revolution. I'm leader of revolution, okay? I have 10th house Uranus, and you see what I do here. I'm leader of revolution. Day after revolution, I don't know what I would be doing. I don't know, maybe art, maybe this, maybe that, if I'm alive. And there are leaders of day after revolution, okay? There are leaders for times for peace, and there are leaders for time for war and social changes. And what they try to do with the bisextile is to control for the revolution, like they did with North Korea and the Jiaoshen. Okay, so it's like we will have a perpetual revolution because this is perpetual war. But the revolution, if you connect with Uranus, it really is releasing, reviving it. You don't stay stuck. You don't stay stuck on one thing, on one perspective, on one energy, or even on one person. And this is pushing you forward. Uranian type of relations dynamics, they are here to make you express of these things that you were coming here to express. And for different people, it's going to be different things. There's so many themes right now. With Urano Algol, that can be astrology itself, okay? After Me Too, I became astrologer. At first, I thought, I will just do it until I finish my aromatherapy course and so on. And then I became astrologer, okay? And then the aromatherapy began into astrological magic. So what I thought I'll do, I could do it differently. Or I said, I always want to do readings one-to-one with people that keeps me hands-on, with contact with the people. And then Uranus went over my sun, and I couldn't be appointable. Okay, there are great people that I would have invited, but it's difficult for me to make appointment. It's the same Uranus in my 3rd house of schedules. And you have to allow this to be liberated. Okay, it's time for me to shine, and it doesn't go according to other paradigms over the fields that I will be tending to. Okay, there is a lot that wants to come out right now, and is spontaneously coming out. And this is coming out through duels, through conflicts, through gossips, through behaviors that are like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing me like this? And inner frustrations that we take out on even the people that we love. And we all are invited to look at ourselves and say, okay, that thing, and take ownership. That thing came out of me. I can see, but with Uranus, it's going to happen so fast that you didn't see it coming. This is why it can bring some poof, something is breaking up. Because it's Mercury retrograde, a lot of things, if something right now is coming up that was broken before the Mercury retrograde, it's like some ex comes back, some this come back, some that come back, more likely than not, it will fade away. But if you are already in connection, and you're like, I'm breaking up, breaking free, breaking this, breaking that, sometimes it's the truth, sometimes like, that's the final one. But with Uranus, you kind of never know. And it's important just to keep in mind, to allow those extremities to form and to happen within you, because with how quickly things go right now in the sky, and they're going to go even faster when we're going to get the bisextile in the air and fire signs. It's just going to do. You just have to accept it. And sometimes it would get you rid of like, before before that sudden thing happened, I was doing something that was offensive. And I was like, well, not even thinking. I was so stressed that I was not even thinking. I was maybe paying attention a little bit, but I didn't think how would this expressed or how would this affected the other person. There are a lot of telepathic communications. Okay, so very beautiful ex-post. The revolution will be telepathic. The Uranus plays with the time, so you could be responding right now to something that was relevant a while ago, but it's not relevant now. And so that can create certain timings, chaotic time in communication. Allow this to take place. Do not by any means sign a divorce, sign a commitment, sign a contract. I know the people are going to tell you, you know, I have colleague Victor, Astro Victor, that he's such he's a big Martian person. So whatever you give to him, he said, no, you make of it what you want to make of it. Very, very inspiring. And so, yes, and I recommend, but it's also important to remember that sometimes the advice for not to do something, big decision on Mercury retrograde, is not a false advice. Okay? And so what he says is correct, but it's also good to remember, because Uranus rules divorces, revolutions, break away, break free, I don't want to see you anymore. And then, you know, it's not really amping, but it doesn't mean that this is your forever connection too. Okay? This is important. And so, and even of what you learned, where is moon compatibility, where is this, where is that, there are really funny things that are happening now. We're not conscious of them all, and that's the point. All the junkyard is coming to the forefront, but kind of all the beauty too. And you learn of what the complexes of other people that guide them to be where they are. You cannot understand me being so opposing to certification of astrology without understanding that I got away from academia because I saw that the cult governs the certifications, and I said, well, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to do science myself. So I did channeling science and then spirit of matter, and then, okay, further expands upon cooling, which was, wow, that's one example of a Uranian astrology that I had with a dead man that is still accompanying. Okay, this is one of those. It's on the level of Feynman. Okay, so Peter the Fifth was on the level of Feynman was for me, and I know that the rabbit hole is deep. Okay, it wasn't like he had some budget outside of a bank. It wasn't like that there was some somebody else holds for RTL or for all these channels, and it's like and that's a lot to hold. So there's a lot of liberation and freedom, but you understand, why this person is so complex about this? Yes, because this is their story. Okay, and when you get that, you understand it's so little about what the other person's complexes are, is about you, that you just don't. There's really no reason for you to not be confident. Shine as who you are. And this is a part of the liberation that is happening right now in your personal lives. So I would be really, really excited to know what you are creating right now, of what you are doing new with your life, of what things come up. And I also, at this time, I would be excited to give you, relationship reading, which is around Uranian themes. So if you have this type of not karmic necessarily, there are a lot of karmic relations, and Lada is amazing with those. I learned a lot of what I know about karmic relationship with Lada, and then some cookbooks even, which are good. Don't neglect the cookbooks. When you begin to understand things, you can even look at the look at the Google, and that little thing can tell you so much because you know to put it into context. Yes. But there are these Uranian relationships where you're not necessarily coming here to marry, but there's something that's coming up in your life. This is something that would still excite me to give you reading for. Let's put the price tag on it, maybe $100, I think is fair. But I can look at composite and synastry. I know it's kind of like, it's not a full relationship reading, okay? It's mostly looking at if you have this kind of like back and forth relationship, or if you have this, I can't say goodbye to this person, but it's not about the obsession or this or that. It's more like, yeah, there's electricity there. Shockers. Or there is just something eccentric about this kind of Uranian light vibes, then I'm okay with, I think I'm okay with scheduling a reading. You can try. My email is madetolovemagic1@gmail.com, and it's $100 for a reading. So I think but it's important. It's not full relationship readings. Those cost $200, $300 for a reason. This is mainly to see of what this Uranian relationship is about, because I'm excited to see you doing you're like expressing yourself, and you might even become astrologer because of that, and that's something that I still like enjoy doing. Okay, so this is what it will give you. It's like what is the Uranus thing doing in your chart? What are you being expressed now? And for very likely most of you, okay, unless you're like Lada and her husband, which always you have to have an exception. It's not about, I can already tell you, it's very likely not that you're going to be happily forever after married traditionally with this person, even if you will relax your commitment style, or do a lot of astrology. Or do a lot of astrology, okay? If you have an astrology business and you're working together, then it makes sense that that's where the Uranian energy goes, and there's enough rejuvenation and changes and so on. That's how I got my astrology for career, because there's so much changes, I don't get bored. There's really nothing I could do that would be so flexible and not have me get bored. So that's one thing. Now let's talk about kind of the more mundane stuff, because really interesting stuff are happening in the sky. So first of all, this is a time where they say maybe end of war, but also beginning of what they call plague. I told you already, anything like this is to cover up. Even for the pedophilia was to cover up for perpetuating war and making money move. And so it's a great time to be radically accepting of your expenses. You know that I have different approaches as astrologer to expenses profile, as I know what is happening in the world. Okay, so if you are feeling that, if you're sensing that, you already know. And some of you that are meant to do certain big things with that are already feeling that, and some of you that that don't see what the point is for to save money, if this money is being used in that way, or to change the currency, and you dedicated so much of your life for that. I would recommend you to begin to think about value, what you see as value and what you see as value to the world. Okay, because we have some opportunities that and to think of redefining wealth is so important. It's a process I'm going through right now, and not a penny changes hands in that process. So this is giant, okay, it's giant thing. And I have been exposed to almost psychedelically to processes where I understand things ancestrally, wealth-wise and world-wise. Suddenly I would have like experiences that are just psychedelic experiences. I don't take psychedelics, I work with certain talismans, but that work in a way that the talisman could be here, I could be there, and there's certain things that are happening right now with this. Uranus is the great planet of downloads. So, yeah. So Eureka's downloads, claircognizance, telepathy, and you think that this is just an experience, is preparing you for it. It's kind of like a quantum leap kind of thing. And quantum leap is basically for the fact that, you know, let's say you're a little photon, okay, so the probability of where you can be. Yes. And then there are experiences where the various points of perspectives or points of observations kind of freeze the shot, your photon is here. Freeze the shot, your photon is here. You are here. And the probability is for you to be in various places, and you are that photon, but you have consciousness. And so I'm really experiencing of what these things are. I remember I used to be curious about M theory. M, remember what is M? M, Mason, Alice in Wonderland, MK Ultra. Okay, so this is, it's not master, it's actually slave. All masters are slaves, all slaves are supposed to be masters for to break themselves free. You have to master something for to break yourself free. And this is, yes, big revelation. So this is where you see M. You don't know what is this M. Or people say, I don't do M. I literally had, it was kind of like the unvaccinated sperm of of Dutchies in demonstrations during COVID. It's like, I saw a person on the bus with a t-shirt in blue, I don't do M. And I was like, what is this M thing? And it M came all around me. Monarch. So, yes, so that is kind of what you need to know about our sciences, is that the theories that you can know about and theories you cannot know about. So this is not saying that M theory does not have merit, but it's kind of like, well, you understand what happened here on the physical level, on the cosmology level. You're allowed to look in the world in one way, not in another. And although it does move, okay, this is also the astrological times that we are at, that we were during the Me Too. And if you were doing science, okay, this is the Aries. Aries is coming to break that, but it's also the Ubermensch and all those things and experiments. We always want to self-improve. We always want to have, what would it be like if I could have super brain? What would it be like if I could have superpowers? And it's exciting, but it's also, yes, what would it be like to be loved even if I don't have these abilities? Okay? And so, and that's another thing to kind of consider. The prodigy child, the gate programming is something that I need to look into. This may or may not have it on my brain. I may or may not have to uninstall a certain, yes, antivirus for gaslighting. So, on a mundane level, really exciting things happen wealth-wise. We get a lot of eurekas around this, where the wealth is coming from, where the thinking is, and so on and so forth. There are the quantum leaps around that, because it's a part of Uranus. Quantum leap is a Uranus term. If you understand quantum theory, you don't understand quantum theory. I'd also been having quantum stuff in 2016, 2017, and I was like, oh, that's just Feynman, okay, it's just accompanying me. But why quantum? I don't know. There is this Schrödinger cat, kind of like they exist and doesn't exist, the dead alive. And it's being used and applied, I guess, in technologies. There is quantum computing, quantum this, quantum that, but you're not being spoken about this. If you're artistic and channeling, then you see like, oh, what is analogy coming up? Examine your analogies. Analogies, as Douglas Hofstadter pointed out, what you could say is also in Petering. I don't know, maybe yes, maybe no. Very unlikely no. Like very unlikely that no, because it was impossible structurally. And he talks about analogies, the core of human consciousness, so, and fluid concepts. So a lot of such experiments that utilize for these ideas are happening in the world right now. I found myself using quantum. Remember when I said there was this around us, there are always these people saying, "I'm Israel Chai, I'm Israel Chai, I'm Israel Chai." I was like, "I'm Israel Schrödinger," and so I got frustrated from that already. I don't remember what the context, but oh yes, I remember the context. Okay, Benjamin Netanyahu, before on day of 7th October, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, he called Mark Rutte, which was back then Prime Minister Netherlands. And so, for the people there, I said, "But whatever you do, wear a t-shirt that says Bibi called Mark Rutte, not me," because the people are going to be very mad when they found out that Bibi actually asked for permission from Netherlands to proceed of what to do next. Why Netherlands? Well, Netherlands, we have the robber bank. What's the robber bank? Well, Mama versus Mafia. I just just go to channel Mama versus Mafia, okay, and relax your dogmas to understand the rabbit hole, or listen to Ronald Bernard or Anneke Lucas, preferably all of the above, okay? Mama versus Mafia is the tightest because she talks about the robber bank. And that ties into so many things, including the head of NATO right now. So I said, yes, I said I'm Israel Schrödinger. But this is the quantum, the implementation of quantum. Okay, the try to control for revolution. I tell you how, scientifically. Because in chaos theory, you find ways that you can have intervals, and if you point to these intervals, you can regulate, let's say, heart rate. This is how they regulate weather, but they don't use it for good. And when I read about this, I get, we should do the same thing for the brain. And my ex-bestie was like, "But there are going to be a lot of bugs with that." I was like, "There are a lot of bugs anyway. It just takes the time. Every program takes time for it." And I was like, "You should understand what it means." And when I worked with people who have was activists with people who have PTSD, CPTSD, and they were trying these chips, and they were in and out of hospitals and not really said. It was not like what they marketed for the one in a million success story. They market and they tell you that this is the normal. But what you have success stories like cancer, cure for cancer, where people are terminally ill, then have remission, which is withdrawal of the ailment. Okay. Then budget stops. Okay, and you think investor, would you think that would be difficult to raise funding for, like, oh, it is successful? Well, it would not be a problem if indeed you are looking for cure for cancer. But even right now you're looking for to silence and oppress people, so that you have 1 billion of cures for cancers, you have ammunition that you can turn on to miraculously heal people whenever you want, and then you say, well, I'm the new government. But at the same time, you keep them in torture. Right now, chemotherapy is torture. It's not therapy, okay? Current therapy for mental this and that, no. Housing first, and actually validating the person. This helps. But the essence that you could use for these frequencies to have, for these qualities, to regulate your brain, to work with the nervous system of the galaxy, to do this is also true. And so that is also genuine science that you get. And with chaos theory, where you have the points which is why I say point of interventions. It is coming from the same perspective that I say point of intervention. And with this point of intervention, you basically have interference in the system where you can regulate the system. And this is true on wave length, and which means that it's also particle length. It's the connection with the wave and particle. And this is kind of like, you could say spirit and matter, but it's not necessarily so. It's beyond that. With this, you can try to regulate or control for Uranus. Okay, what is the point of intervention? It's very exciting. There's also the understanding that you work on a holistic level. There's always have to be intention set with this. And intention cannot be to control. Intention to live you will get the best out of you will get the best out of the machine. Set intention to do good for yourself and humanity, will get the best out of the machine. This is where we go, Aquarius. Okay, and so otherwise, you would have people that would use the revolution, okay, like the Jaosha that was used to oppress North Korea. Not by its leaders, but by the cult. Actually, right now, North Korea is slowly opening up to tourists again. As before COVID, it's not that level of opening up. But this is true. There's a control for the entire media. And I watch for this. There are satellites. You can watch YouTube. Satellites of North Korea hacked, or satellites of North Korea. And you see. And you are going to run into whichever country you live in, you're going to run into, say, oh, that reminds me of, for our television. If you're old enough, reminds you of your television. Okay, so they make for all of these experiments, and they put one jail experiment. They say with constant revolution and so on. And the Jaosha sounds like John Stuart Mill. We're going to have our own sovereignty and a sense of community, which is in essence the truth. We need a certain sort of sovereignty. We need a certain sort of community. And through the sovereignty, you reach the community. Through the community, you reach the sovereignty. This is true. Okay? But, so why is North Korea so? Well, something to do with cults. But with Uranus, what they try is they try to control for. They try to intervene. And Uranus backfires on this. Uranus backfires on these methods for control, for this, for that. You will have to remember that this is a slower moving planet. Okay? The bisextiles, a lot of people think, oh, we're going to be able to control for the revolution, so people will not rebel, and we're going to recruit the revolution to constantly rebel with us. Then there is Sedna. Sedna is trining Pluto right now. And she's like, well, what about the people that you didn't account for in society? You're going to have to pray for them for food. So that's the Sedna story. She children need childhood, and for relationship, you have to be free for within the relationship. Right now, if I go back to the personal, a lot of things, the personal polarities around freedom are coming up because there are various forms of freedom. When I said around Aries eclipse, so you make a I am statement and this and that, and I said, okay, I am safe, I am free, I am this, I am that, and I found that where is true. I was shocked for the polarities. And these polarities exist on an erotic level, and these polarities exist on a relational level. And you can see how there's something very unusual going on with that. With Uranus is the sign of relations and the Venus sign tropically. There's something very unusual, and I invite you to check, because this polarities is like thesis and synthesis, thesis and antithesis that create a certain synthesis, and this is a part of the Uranian process. And this is true, okay, regardless of what dogmatic materialism and Marxism and this, that was a weird thing that was done with that, but the essence of there is kind of there's thesis, there's this wave towards this, and then there's wave towards this. They collapse, and then just something happens. Okay, what happens with two waves collapse? They eventually fall, and then there is another. Okay, work towards this collapse movement, and those are within those systems that are very predictable, chaotic patterns that are not completely predictable. Those are things, fascinating things that when you get it, when you even get to express that, and I can help you identify where it's happening in your relations, then you can really shift perspective. Why am I meeting this person? What's going on? What about the day of freedom versus my freedom? Okay, right now with the sun, it's about leadership, visibility of patrilineage. Thanks, Caitlin, for this. Caitlin Koppuk for this word, patrilineage, ancestry. And so Regulus can do a great deal to curate that. As my experience still with energy of Regulus, even when you work in energy, it's going to bring up all the things. Okay, for example, as me looking into places where my parents' Pluto generation was by sign square in my Mars, my Saturn, my Pluto, but was by sign square in my Mars, my 22-degree Mars, and what impact this had on not only the pathway lineage, but the entire family unit. And so on and so forth. The people that you didn't think that you have relation to, for you can find a sense of communion, community, and union, which is also Uranus. Also on a societal level, there is this horseshoe theory. Okay, for this extreme, that extreme, they find each other, they connect more so than the centralists among themselves, because the centralists are going towards disintegration, and for the polarities, they're going towards communion. So you could be chicken to KFC, chicken to KFC, chicken to KFC, and then you find yourself enmeshed. Okay, with the other polarity, and so on, and this is because at various points of the system, you see, okay, for various points of view. And Uranian energy is a lot about wealth redistribution. It's a lot about okay, it's the person outside the tyrannical system that becomes the anti-tyrant, that becomes the tyrant, and then there's coming another person like this. So it's very potent energy, explosive, exciting. The shocking revelations absolutely are there. Shocks, unfortunately, even electric shocks are also part of Uranus, and they were used in programming to try to make people dissociate and to activate them through shocks. And unfortunately, what we call Kundalini energy, what the sexual energy, was also used for that process, to try to control for Uranus, for the nervous system, for the programming, for the energy level of where we connect with each other and create, okay, one giant things. And this is where we see where the mass programming is happening. But when you are aware, then you have point of interference, and there is this conversation that's going on. Okay, the polarization and the clash of civilizations that's happening at the same time. This is why it is so sexual, it is so arousing, it is so liberating, it is so confusing, it is so radical, and it is so provocative. And if you set intentions with other planets, it's the best thing that you can do, because you're going out to sea, and the sea will, the nature will nature. And setting intention goes a long way, okay, with this nature of riding the waves and so on. So this is both personally and also mundanely. This is the spirit of the times. Then there are, okay, then there are the planets that are involved. So we talked about Venus, we talked about Lilith. There's Jupiter, which is philosophy and so on. But also spousal relations, and there is Mars. You could have a mixture of happy accidents and mishaps, and certain clashes with authorities. But they are happy. Like, you would likely to be laughing about this because of the vicinity of Mercury to the Sun, the Mercury Cassini. There is a lot of willingness to laugh at how things look, where you didn't even intend them to look this way. Yes, for example, I was putting the bottle of mishap, which is basically essential oil. I was putting it on my hair. It can be used for a lot of things, but I was just oiling my hair because I needed something and I didn't have another oil. I was like, oh, let's take bottle of mishap. And I was like, oh my gosh, the scent is amazing. And I was just going with my mother to the city to shop for things. Okay, it was just excellent. Okay, I was just putting that and that, and I was like, that's not what people think that you're going to do with that. I just needed to oil my hair was dry. I needed to oil my hair. And that was very, very fast. It led into a crescendo of energies. That was just hilarious. And so with telepathy, you see how you're perceived more. And that is just so funny. And so those are the type of humorous situations. You have a happy accident. Okay, you suddenly you turn someone on by accident, or you made of someone believe you want something that you weren't even thinking about consciously except by accident. But this is also the type of Uranian interaction. It's like, I wasn't thinking about it before. And now that you mentioned it, this is interesting. But now that you mentioned it, you wasn't thinking about this before. Well, I wasn't thinking about this before. You can think about this now, but I don't know. I don't like that. I wasn't thinking about that. But and this is very, and it's not just erotics. It's not just business. It's not just erotics. It is just something that happens in the air right now. So that's why it's kind of like the only relationship reading that I would still give at this moment, because it's just so exciting. Something's calling you to liberate yourself. Someone's liberating you, for you even, and you find so many ways in which whatever they try to control for this, especially if there are not good intentions along the way, it's kind of breaking apart in the most hilarious ways. Okay, if somebody was trying to finesse you, or you would put in situations of finessing. Okay, for the very person they sent for you to try to finesse you, they might want to rebel their job altogether. And they might not even be aware of the job, and they want to rebel for the job altogether. Okay, I was like, no, I'm not going to. Or you were trying to stand for a person, you stand to protect for a person. You're like, no, but this person is like, no, you're judging, putting too much fire on this person. You're not tending to the actual problem, and then you kind of like you shocked the entire system upon which it's like at least that I have safe in my life. I'm like, was and then you understand you're doing it like, well, for me nothing is safe either. It's like right now it's safe, but everybody keep doing all this weird shit with the coin and the change of this and the change of that and this and that. And I'm like, so okay, so I release that shit. That's also for the purpose of Uranus. It's like those things that we are usually, whether it is being politically correct or whether it is shaking up the boat here but not shaking up the boat there, Uranus makes a complete mess of everything. Okay? And it's happening so fast. So the Mars-Jupiter in the mix, that is ruled by this Mercury, which squares Uranus, is like a bunch of like happy accidents that are revealing of something. The square to Uranus is, there's a certain reality check, but I dare say that in the mix here, okay, Jupiter is ruling Saturn, the square in Saturn. So there's places where if we are constricting, the constriction to what you believe you can do can come from the self right now. And you're going to supposedly undermine yourself in ways that keep you from being constricted in that way. So it's a great time for you if you set intention. Okay, what are my limiting mindsets? It's not going to be an orderly, I believe in this, I consciously believe that, oh, this is my unconscious belief, this is that. It's just such a happy accident. It's like, oh, poof, all these constrictions out the window. So especially if you're worried about taxation. If you're worried about taxation. Okay, we are at the time where United States was formed because it didn't want to be a colony anymore. Okay, they didn't want to pay the debt. But the debt was too much, they didn't want to pay the debt. And then what they did later, they would have civil war, they will abolish slavery. And it could very well be, internal forces of the secret societies coming from the monarchs. Will say, now you two are going to fight about slavery. Well, that was becoming a lot more challenging for to do slavery in this region. Still slavery. It was becoming a lot more challenging and a lot less socially acceptable. So it is the thesis and antithesis way in which for these things tend to work. The erotics of polarity are going to play a huge part, especially with this Lilith. And okay, what let's say a woman lawyer that defends sex offenders and a man who survived sexual abuse by men or women have in common. Okay, you'd be surprised. Grief. I was elegant, right? I'm not a lawyer. And so, okay, what would this, I don't know, let's talk about the chickens to KFC. You know, what would a person that has been in a tribe where they have child rights, where they have honor killings, where they have this, where they have that, have in common with LGBTQ? Both of you guys are going to be the Boko Haram children. Like, if you are okay with marginalizing all the rest of your society of LGBTQ people that don't want surgery, they also have been undergoing medical experiments. Why won't you talk to each other and see what the implications of that? How many children you sacrificed, both of you, for the sake of your identity, national or otherwise, or sexual. Okay, why were you doing that? Grief. So, and then there's the teeter-totter, because what happened to people that were violated in such way? They are manifesting mass death. What happens after mass death? People have so much grief that they cannot have sex with each other, and they're just too angry. And okay, and it's like, okay, how do we stop this? We need to process grief. So what do? They try to make us continuously feel grief. But we laugh about this. So that is, yes, another thing. And this is the erotics of polarities are very much coming into play right now. And we are purging the old. Everybody wants a reset. It's just a question of what a reset looks like, because it looks different for different people, and it's a part of the polarities that happen. And there are actually people, okay, Masonic or whatnot, that they believe that is allowed by God, because some people's role is to wake up society. And this is, yes, it has its limitation, but if the wake up society is coming from child sacrifice and torture and abuse, but people begin to normalize that, that has implications. Okay, if you think about World War I, World War II, in Europe they called the Great War is World War I, not World War II. The Great War was World War I, not World War II. I repeat that. You go in Europe and you see the Great War was World War I. It was thought to have been the war that will end all wars. And so, yes, if you think about after World War II, people remember, oh, there was the Holocaust. That was not the whole story. Okay, so there would be some people, if it's now maybe it's Palestinians, that you will remember. Okay, but what about 7.7 or 7 million Congo people back in a couple of months ago, 7 months ago? Okay, that was 7 million Congo people in Congo. Okay, if you're still being taught that. Churchill himself, he said, I will be written as the winner, because history is the history of people who win, and he knew he was said to win the war, or it was his mindset, and he managed to do that. But was Churchill better than Hitler? No, it was worse. He just didn't do it to Jews. Okay, but what is these Jews? Well, the Jews themselves don't have protection. They were in the Holocaust. What is that? What the Vatican needs a goy of Shabbat to do, a goy of Sunday to do the debt stuff, because they can't do this, and Islam same. So the goy of Shabbat is basically the Jew right now, and these people can do all the top criminal banking stuff. And later we say, it's the Jews, they betray the Christians, and so on. Okay? But if you're stupid enough to buy this story, they will tell you. Okay? What they don't tell you is how much this stupidity has been worked on, so that you will have all the psychological, okay, for you do priming, for your consciousness, you do priming. And they try to do this to me with Arabic people. We do priming for you, make the person to be afraid of the language, to be afraid of this, to be afraid of that. There's still people who cannot hear German language. Cannot hear German language. Not Jewish people, Bulgarian people. Cannot hear German language. Because they have this priming. Okay? Did German language assassinate them? No. But you would go to university and you would have, well, they have for the German way and the language, and this, well, you translate that to every language. You have that. You have that in Jalshev, you have that in Sharia, you have that in those leaders that don't do anything about the cartels of real estate, but they just put people, poof, here, back, here, that. It's like, oh, Brussels 1996 with the White March in Paris, we just the scandal exposed. Well, let's have Taliban. Now we're going to have a lot of Afghan refugees, people that were well off, people that were this, people that were that. And then would be the Soros people that tell you, well, if you are high like this and then you are low like this, and in the death camps, people go through being extorted, being raping, okay, all of this human experience that they are being put through this experimentation. So this is what the caring that they got is what they have to give. So, but outer planets are also miracles. This is why this lunation in Aquarius, the blue moon, is so giant, because what is going on in the sky right now is all these difficult aspects between all the planets and themselves, that is a little bit mitigated only by that which has been unincluded in society. This is the purpose of this chaos, so we can be more inclusive. And here is where the Satanists are wrong, but they're right about this. The Christians are wrong, but they're right about this. The Muslims are wrong, but they're right about this. The Jews are not even Jews, they worship the Baal, but they're right about this. If where you've been not inclusive, now you get a chance to be inclusive, and that is a bit of the antidote or the revolution or the resolution of the chaos. Okay? Oh, hey, these people, they don't have culture, they don't have this, they don't have that, but they don't have the cultural background, and they haven't studied gender studies for I don't know how long, and they just come like the common person, and they feel completely left out of society to include for what was marginalized, but then the marginalized is making deal with the devil to be included, and that deal includes a lot of medical experimentation, surgeries, genitalia mutilation. And who supports the LGBTQ people? Well, they're not really being supported. But the only time what you could sound your sound if you were a person that went through such thing and regret this is to a Jordan Peterson or to a right-wing person. And this is another thing that is the marginalized of the marginalized. It's not LGBTQ people, this is no longer so marginalized in the West, but it is still danger of, yes, being murdered, and this is absolutely true, but it's the marginalized within the marginalized. Okay, why did yes, we have in Netherlands we had Ali B, was Moroccan singer, and of course he had sex scandal. It's not sex scandal, he was part of human trafficking. Well, basically, if you want to deal with the devil, all of them have to do this. He was just more easily caught, and so he ran away to Dubai. But then you think, where are the artists that weren't getting to be involved in this, or at least on that scale? Well, you have Tupac. Where's Tupac? How long did Tupac live? Not a lot. And so if all the Tupacs are dead, all you're gonna have left with is alibis. And that, but then if you mitigate this, if you say, okay, I'm going to hush, like Khalid Qasim, the lawyer, I'm going to hush the store, I'm going to pay money for the woman, I'm going to pay it, okay, but how is she going to recover? Her voice, for example. Then you keep doing this, keep doing that, of course everything is going to fall apart. And you say, well, but these people, they also have to go back into society, like this Olympic trainer that we had in the games. Well, yes, but they're victims also. If you're again in your own album, you don't want to be marginalized on the account of somebody who went through the abuse. Okay? So, yes, it's important to say that Wilders and Rutte were going through satanic ritual abuse themselves. Their solution cannot exclude Lars, who's the reason we know about this. We both survived to tell, and we understand that this Lars maybe was also supposed to perpetuate. And he cannot talk about this. Okay? Maybe not. But in any way, if you run away from these codes and you have to work with organized crime that works with these codes, then it's very difficult to really get out of the cycle. And then what do we the people do? Okay, all of these things are coming to be alchemized. There's not yet a resolution, but there are also the ways in which we've been uninclusive and not have been aware of. Okay, for example, if you escaped trading your child organs and so on and so forth, and got tortured to go outside, and then I don't know, you have to work with crime organizations that push drugs and are used to drug people in the snuff films that they do for the judges, for the Supreme Court judges. Then you don't do that, but you have to be okay with the drugs, or they do yes, sex trafficking, which is giving birth to more children that the person, the parent maybe can love the child, or maybe not even that, and not for the parent because they were conceived with rape, or maybe, and even if not, even if there was not rape, it was like the person did not have connection for the sexuality so much. So that's fertility. Actually, it's all by design. And this is where a lot of things just meet each other in a gushing spectacle. And people have to tend to a lot of things. The people that practice expendable children, they practice expendable people, and they practice expendable solar figures, okay, whether leaders, business people, royalties, but also the hidden of those, okay. Yes, people usually don't want to be expanded. And a lot of what we've been calling greedy or sexually deviant is not at all of what we think that it is. And so the entire complexion of the structure of society is changed from the core. It takes time. Okay? It takes Neptune time. And Neptune is a couple of centuries. Remember, after the French Revolution, it took 300 years for France to become democracy. What kind of democracy? How much did it survive democracy? Not much. If we are going golden ages, yes, we're golden ages. Golden ages is willing consent. Golden ages is biodiversity. Golden ages is eradicating medical welfare. Golden ages is for art of war is used to alchemize the energy back to peace, not to perpetuate constant war. Golden ages is all that. Golden ages is not torturing our shamans. It's finding ways to reach enlightenment that are essentially essentially, what people torture to reach enlightenment. When they reach enlightenment, they understand that they didn't need the torture. And so, yes, golden ages understand that those things are relevant from the Inuit till today, still within the Inuit society. It's not just, okay, it's where you tend to, indigenous people, how can I pay reverence to the people of Sedna? You pay reverence to the people of Sedna. It's like, oh my God, there's the entire society of indigenous people, like they're still in danger of murder, of this or that, and you find indigenous people, they look, well, we're not victims. We have been cannibalizing on our enemies. Oh. So that's what you get, the Hillary and Bill Clinton picture of a person, they're dining and they're eating a person. This is where we got all these weird habits for the elite, our supreme culture. And that's like, oh, okay. It looked like a great idea. If somebody's coming for you and you manage to catch them and you eat them, then you will have their own qualities. But then from a spiritual point of view, why would you have the quality of this person who's coming for you? Why would you want that? Okay. Even for the Me Too era, there was distinction for among the people. Some of them went vegan because they didn't want any of this. And some of them actually began to eat meat to have the qualities of predator that they needed to put in themselves so that they would not be prey. Okay? So to embody the aggressor. And those were these different food cultures amongst survivors of sexual abuse. Those, okay, the different streams. And indeed, for some type of meat is important for hormonal system. It's not the polluted meat that we get. But also for the organic food, we don't get organic food, we don't get nutrients. Why? Because 7 generations ago we were doing A-bombs. Then that was not a problem. The problem was when we stopped doing the A-bombs, then we didn't have where to put the toxins of the Industrial Revolution yet. Okay? But if I want to tell you, okay, let's all be practicing willing consent and so on to speak to the masses, I need phone, I need technology, I need broadcasting, I need all these things. Okay? And that is a part of the dissonance in which we live within society. Recently we had a scandal about art in Netherlands where there was diminished budget for artists. And of course I made Kunz and I said, well, it's no problem, as a person who is loving art and could not be an officer, I don't think his problem, because our leaders, some of them were musicians, were artists themselves, and it's not a problem of value, but the thing is, if artists are being used, if the way we raise our artists is by expandable children, then we use these artists and these singers and these performers for the politicians to be extorted and to bring like hypnosis and a spy, and then the artists themselves, they forget it, but they're being used in extortion. Then for the politicians, they can either do like Germany, where they legalize pedophilia, which is absolutely not a solution for anybody. Alternatively, we could cut on the budget for art. And so it got a backlash, but it also needed to be said. And then I thought about it, art is both free and not free. Again, this Schrödinger point of the dead alive, because this is the situation we put the children at. I grew up my entire life in this feeling of feeling a dead alive. And it was very recently have I managed to feel alive. And so when we put so much of our society in this situation, this is the frequency we have on Earth. It's like, we think of the world as quantum theory. Yes, but we also put people in a situation where they're dead alive, they're Schrödinger's cat. And for the souls, to be in such a situation, that changes of our cosmology, of how we see the world. And when we don't know that this happens, because there's such existential gap, and you think that this person has this big mansion, or has this big island, or has this, or if this person is monster, if when I'm exposed, And nobody would tell you for what the energy that they put in for to make them such monster, and how much the soul fought against this with every point of interference it had until it was used to manifest mass death. So on energy and in actions. So this is all part of what is in the sky right now. And you see it from your point of view, and then you say, well, if so much energy is invested to make people that evil, it means that the nature of humanity is actually not that terrible. But then who are the people? Maybe they are aliens. Well, no, they're human beings. And have to deal with this dissonance. That it really takes a lot to put a person through until they, and even then, they don't always bifurcate for this way. Some of them bifurcate as whistleblowers, and sometimes what you think is not good for you is they're actually trying to do something to mitigate of what is coming. And then what do you think that those people coming to wake you up, that they are not awake for the things that, for what you still have, or you still have for to push the drugs that they use to snuff these children, would you still have to push for the real estate that does the sex trafficking, would you still have this, would you still have that? We all, even when we tend to that, we try to make point of interferences for the dissolve and to change that. And there are also processes of crumbling within society. These things are crumbling as well. So not everything that's falling apart in your life is falling apart against you. Some of it's falling apart for you, and it's still difficult when it's falling apart. Okay, or when it's coming together. But to put all these things together, and the emotional, the psychological part of it is requiring for these psychedelics that are used right now, whether in Temamundi, or whether it's psychedelics, or whether in chips in the brain, okay, of whatever is going on. But this is very much Aquarian age. This is very much the ghost in the machine. It has been playing out for centuries. It's not new. We're just going to explore it deeper with Pluto and Aquarius. You know that they are freezing dead people to maybe bring them back to life. Like I knew about Walt Disney, but I didn't know that the people that died, they are freezing them for maybe to bring them back to life. And they're like, that if you think about a person that would come back to life, that maybe after a century or so, there's just so much. Okay, there's just wow, it's a fascinating experience. But I can say it's just a person who's alive in this time, where so many things unravel. And you get exposed to kind of like the more of the rabbit hole that you wouldn't otherwise be exposed to. That's just so much for the consciousness to contain. I'm like, wow. This earthbound people. And when you think about for some of these people, you think, oh, maybe they did this to this person, maybe they did this to that person. So some of them are like, what were you doing all the time? But they were on air. So why aren't they going there? Well, I don't know. Maybe the family. I don't know. So, but I really like to see the revolution is telepathic. Today, and this is what they call Ariman, I don't know, but you want to keep the heart center. It balances things. It balances what people call the Luciferian, the Arimanic. It balances, other people call it Christ consciousness. It's just, it balances life and curating for your heart. I guess Regulus work is going to be quite important. And if you try to make talisman for this, it's a bit problem because of Saturn in Pisces, but it's going to go out of Pisces. You want to check for Jupiter, okay, and to bring is the rulers of fixed star Regulus are Jupiter and Mars, and you want to go from the Jupiter perspective. This is teaching from Austin Koppak, who made the elections for this work. You can watch it on Sphere and Sundry. But this is really important, because if you get just the sun, you are, as Caitlin says, the sun is not a benefic. It's a spotlight and it burns. But Regulus is, when you get it from the Jupiter perspective, that can be curative of a lot of the issues around visibility, shadow banning, leadership, creativity, patriarchy, which they've been pushing for so long, and then the weird antidotes, so that the antithesis would be like extreme matriarchy or something like that, and the understanding that people sometimes do the stupidest things for the best of intentions, and the most amazing things even when it didn't come with good intentions as well. And that's just life. Any other thing that's been coming up right now? Well, I think there's going to be a build-up crescendo of analysis and diagnosis, because for those of you who dealt, like with the 2017 crisis, or the middle crisis, kind of like, there was the rise of acknowledging narcissistic abuse and then acknowledging CPTSD. There's going to be a crescendo of diagnosis. Okay? And there's some good things about it, some bad. Okay? If you use it for radical acceptance, and you're independently of what they call the treatment to is, because it's, housing first and just believing yourself, then it's not so much the matter if you call yourself like this or you call yourself like that, or still call another like this or like that. But if you use it for to control people, then A, you do that without a diagnosis as well. But B, this is where they try to create certain polarities around labor. If we always want to think about what has this been serving so far. This been serving for the ability of people to play the fool card, which is the fool card is the fool of the town. There's the tarot fool, but there's the fool of the town, or the eureka. Yes, just the tarot of the town, the hyoka. The satire person, what is Western culture, indigenous culture. And I know people are going to be really tied into how that manifests in the political. Okay, fine. Go do a video about that, so people can learn more about your culture. But this is where the folly and the ridicule has been used to manifest truths. Okay, and on whichever kind of level of analysis that's being served. And so this is where there are certain people for whom this is the job in society. So what do you do it with the lentora of medical diagnosis? When those people don't have place in society, this is a sign of tyranny. Okay, in every culture, towns full of the people that you deem as crazy, their job was to bring in the truths in a way that people can still accept. So they could use ridicule, they could use absurd, they could use humor. Actually, Donald Trump is doing a great job of doing this. Okay, he's taking the Bible and Jesus, making a lot of grotesque around this. He's very good in taking something into the extreme form and manifesting a show around this. So we don't want to undermine for this role in society. This exposes a lot of corruption, but this also doesn't mean that but this is an interesting experiment of what if the town full ruled the town, and that is this is another experiment that's been done politically as well, but this is also showing that the townsful come into to show something that needs to be corrected. If you put the town full as control, you say, the world is ruled by satires. If you give the satire people to control the world, you need they would have to take off the satire effect. This is why there are leaders of revolution and leaders of the day after the revolution. And sometimes there are people that are both for revolution and for day after revolution. But this is also true in our lives. Okay, the people that we meet because we need to have a certain encounter. And this is not just the Uranus. It's a good idea to, we think of the cases of Corvinaut and Peter de Vries, where such encounters, okay, we talked about the Saturn, Pluto from my perspective, or if you're Dutch, you probably know about this, and TV series about this now, or a stream service series, I don't know, you can look for the family. And so this is where we're going to have, okay, first the sextile between Pluto and Saturn. Okay, Pluto is going to be in sextile to Saturn when Saturn conjuncts Neptune. So we're moving towards the easier facets of accepting this, but the Corvinaut was not a sextile, it was a square. And so this is where we are being ushered to and prepared for Saturn in Taurus, which would square Pluto. The 1998 generation are the recent generation that have this in their natal chart. 1998 people. And they are in their Saturn square. And Saturn, they were going through the Saturn, they're beginning to go through, yes, they were going through the Saturn return. So a lot of them have been going through the Saturn return. And this is where, it's very interesting, it's called the Corvinaut because this is a change from the core. Everything that you are structured around is bound to be nuked. Okay, in a very, it's psychologically, sexually, structurally, your physical, your survival, the taxes, debts, politics, programming of the government, look into the ancestral lineage, everything you know is shaken from the core, and it's and this is a very deep encounter that has a duration of time. Right now we're heading towards the sextile, but it is when Saturn goes into Taurus. And the Saturn Taurus are going to have their Saturn return, okay, at this time. So this is kind of like a big event that's happening structurally in the sky. You want to pay attention to this. A lot of attempts to, I guess, do something with perpetual war are also connected to that, to try to basically ground certain political and fiscal reality, and it's a crisis. Okay, it's where we see it doesn't work so well. So that is okay. If you think about 1998 and kind of like the artists, then there was internet, and then there were streaming services, and then everybody was downloading all the films that they couldn't pay for free, okay? And all the music that they couldn't pay for free. And then there was attempts to control and to regulate and to this and to that. And then there were other, streaming platforms. There was the experiment with Tidal, okay, years later, of Beyonce. And that's something that happened to art. It made our art a lot more accessible to people. There were also the YouTube stars and YouTube musicians. Yeah, there's Beyonce, as I said, they don't make albums anymore. On the other hand, when it comes to the funding, our music industry looks different. Okay, a lot of the implications as well on the sex trafficking and the programming that was both exposed to larger audiences, but people became even more dependent on other type of businesses than music, like human trafficking, like sex trafficking, like working with the government, like all of these things. And on the other hand, we have more acquaintances. Okay, we have a plethora of completely white people missing Tupac. So, so that is, you know, I grew up. My parents did not like the big electric guitar, so I grew up on the black music in the 90s. So I discovered the 90s music way after I left home. So that is also something to consider. Right now, we're going to have the sextile. Right now, we're going to have, with the Saturn Neptune, it's going to be a grounding of the processes that are happening with Pluto in Aquarius. Okay, all type of processes that happen, and we are only beginning to explore what would a different reality look like. Okay, yeah, we might have with Uranus Taurus still idealize the entire, okay, we grow self-sustainable, self-this, self-that. What happens when you cannot work? Okay, you do need some welfare. You do need people to take care of, whether it's in the community or whether it's not, you do need people to take care of you. Or alternatively, what happens where you're in the midway, okay, and there's a big summer. It's like, oh, let's grow tomatoes, let's grow this, let's grow that, and then you go outside, okay. Israeli putting a kufiya on so that you block the sun, and then just like, let's go to the mall. There is air condition. There's air condition in the bus. Let's just go to the mall, and that is also okay for a part of life. Then there's another technique that you can try, but it's very good that you have food on the table. You can try for all of these techniques, because in the past people would just die by the millions until they learn to do these half moon circles. And how many died for the half moon circle? And we call this nature. So now we control for so many things, but do we really bring prosperity? It is a big question. Technology is a part of human nature, not exempt from it. Yes. More things coming up for this, just this full moon. Okay, just this full moon. We're talking about medical welfare, the politics, the structures, the build-up of relational dramas, and the release and execution of things. Uranus creates a form of detachment from something that allows you to process things, but also can bring about certain cutoffs or certain behaviors that you wouldn't otherwise do. But it's also tied to electrocution. It's something to keep in mind. We are definitely liberated from all dogmas. And there's Uranus in fixed tropical signs, also sidereal, because sidereal in Taurus is in itself, even without the Pluto Saturn, a change from the core. It's shaking up the core of what is fixed in our lives. We need that, because if we got fixed on something that is not good for us, we need that. Or if we got fixed on the idea that I cannot say this or say that without having repercussions when I'm either imprisoned or killed or that, we're like, hey, we need to be able to say that and stay alive. Okay? And so we need to understand that there are fixed things that we've been fixed on that are not contributing our psyche. And Uranus helps us to detach from certain types of land structure. Land is very much land, physical structures, relational structures. Who we can, and the role of Uranus and space in building relations. Okay, and I'm not just talking Esther Perel, I'm talking about your housing, I'm talking about your land, environment, and the bank system. Okay, how many things we have literally in society that have to do with banking and fiscal control. And the way of what is the set of opportunities that you have in front of this system puts you in a place where either way somebody's getting hurt, severely hurt, wants to kill himself, or gets murdered, or raped and tortured and abused. Okay, in the case of expandable children, that's the case. How does that affect for the rest of sexual energy and ability to express yourself and the fixed dogmas in which we have been in? But Uranus can also remind us of the certain things that we have fixed that maybe we have either taken for granted or that used to be fixed, and right now maybe we would want that to be fixed. Think about fixed interest rates. Fixed currency. Okay? Yes? But the antidote is like, why would you pay for your housing? You pay to build a house, yes. You pay for to manage the soil, the land, absolutely. Yes, but why would you pay tax for this? Like, would the government come and fix your soil? Would the government come and fix your house? What would you pay for? Can you collect water and reduce for the taxation that is on infrastructure? Because I can pay the same tax, but instead of this tax going to this infrastructure that's archaic, and for me paying for this infrastructure extra fee for the water bill and this bill and that bill, I appreciate the work of the people who maintain that, but we could reduce this if I collect the water and then for the people that are not housed in my country can get housed. What is my country? Okay, and that begins to build itself, not, let alone that Uranus. Think about astrocartography. If one of these falls in your 4th house, 9th house, even 12th house, you can think about what's been fixed in your life. If jail and imprisonment have been fixed in your life, now is the chance, if this is related to the fixed axis, now is the chance for you to become free from imprisonment. Think about Julian Assange entered the Belmarsh in 2017, around the Me Too era. And as Me Too veteran, I can definitely say is the fact that they took him for sexual harassment that very likely steered the Masonic Me Too movement that very likely allowed people that were outside of the cult like me to expose the cult through role in the Me Too cases. And that I was like, oh, I wonder why people are trying to assassinate me in spirit and in matter. But if I wouldn't speak, I would also be dead. I would get ailment on ailment on ailment on and then for the time where I was looking for therapy before that, everybody wants you to have talk therapy. So you must speak about your trauma to heal. But I don't know. That you go to MDR, it's Scientology. But I really don't know it is Scientology. Okay? If you talk about energy, then it's suddenly like, they look at you like you saw a ghost. And you think it's because they don't believe you. No, because you're about to expose their inner workings. Therapy was almost successful. Now they can't do it. Okay, but they're losing income because you won't go to their abuse. So you're just like, and you literally they have no money for therapy every week because you wouldn't go to their abuse and that you're the limitation. They're like, oh, there's something interesting about the economy is that the resources, when they enable abuse, they begin to diminish naturally. It's a natural body of economy. But then nobody paid attention for me when I wanted a degree until I was doing, my checks went bad. Nobody gave a flying fuck if I want to kill myself, not to kill myself. Nobody could help me to kill myself either. It's mother, just dead alive, shooting a cat. But when my checks went bad, I said, come on, Open doors. You're a very intelligent person. Don't your book say I'm borderline? Because maybe I could market the medication. Yes, but I see medication not good. Not only that, I see it's terrible for you. And I see what, oh, it's housing first and open dialogue. And it's in the back and then I go homeless and I'm like, oh, I see that you can either get housing if you are taken for prescribed pills or for drug trafficking. These are the organizations of drug traffickers. They are the organizations that will help you to represent you in the gemeente, in the municipality, for when you need a meeting for your papers, the BSN, for what you need to have registry. You can't rent apartment without this gemeente paperwork of the BSN. It's the lawyers that trade in the drugs. And you know about this from this journalist that did, okay, that attended to a lawyer that took 50 grams of white and 50 euros, and so on and so forth. And then, like, oh, that's how law is running. Okay, and sometimes you would be that journalist, and it's like you discover that, and you're like, just what I think about it, and then it's like, well, there are people that are in the marginalized society that cannot do. That cannot earn income because that is blocked to them. All they can do is push drugs. So you get the drugs, and then you become a drug dealer, and then we can help for these underdogs in society, and you also get filthy rich. relative to what people need to do in the cults, it's nothing. And then this nothing becomes something, and something, and builds up and builds up and builds up, and before you know, you're watching for videos. Okay, so those are all kind of the stories building in. And then Julian Assange went to Belmarsh when Uranus was conjunct in Aries, squaring Pluto in Aries, tropical Aries. Okay, now you're in Taurus, tropical, not sidereal. He got released from Belmarsh. So it's a good potent time for people to be released from imprisonment, especially if that imprisonment was fixed in your life. With the fixed axis ruled by Saturn, Saturn, Mars, Venus, and the Sun. But unfortunately, some other people, before Pluto came into my 12th house, so Aquarius, it's a fixed time, it's a house of exile, imprisonment, and so on. But also long distance travel, meditation, and stuff. And so I was hearing the song of Leonard Cohen. They sent me, they sent me in, or so imprisoned me for 20 years. They sent me to 20 years of boredom for trying to change the system from within. And I'm like, this doesn't sound like a good omen. But then I'm coming back, I'm coming to reward him. First we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin. Very likely he was sent to prison because he wanted to avoid a world war. Now he is becoming so that he wants to perpetuate one. And that happens to a lot of the people who are like, well, let's wake up society. And then Lucifer said, okay, go wake up society. Wake up society. It's like, you find for the people that are somewhat closer to you, yes, this thing that they do in the psychiatry, and they take the soldiers, and they take this, and they take that, and they take that, is true. You need to make an income of creative endeavors. No, the competition is very, very hard. It's very, very hard. You can do, I work in the pizza. How many drugs are you selling at the pizza? Okay? But I had sexual harassment, I had all these sexual boundary violations. Sexual is to do with root, but chakra is also to do with creativity. Perhaps I need to express myself with creativity, yet I don't have this sexual harassment at work. No, but you shouldn't charge money for people for that. I'm not charging money. I was trying to say for such things. No, but the competition is very, very hard. Everybody needs to work. what is it? How do I know that this such a sexual thing happened to you? You want me to threaten your life? Am I supposed to assassinate you? Because that's what they paid me. Like, what can I make money from? Granted, they want to be sovereign on my body, is to either sell weapon or to assassinate people. This is the job you leave me open. I can do astrology. Of me is dat vast aangevangen. Like that, okay, I will take that and I will do something good for humanity with that. But I have to be so creative to do something good for humanity. Like, I'm humbled and I understand why for so many people that need to die so that people can live. And Lucifer's like, I told you so. Huh? Like, is there a way around this? I don't know, try politics. But that's the robber bank. Well, that is also the artist is the robber bank. Okay? So there is a lot of, it is a change from the core. It is a change from the core. And this is where what was fixed in our lives becomes dynamic for the time that Uranus is in Taurus. It will go Gemini tropically soon. It stays sidereally in Taurus for a while, okay, for a couple of years. And so, and then Pluto in tropical Aquarius is really transforming from the core. But why this is the time for eradication of cult? Because sidereally Pluto is in Capricorn. It's a sign of the pyramid. Okay? So they're just trying to rejuvenate the heads of the pyramids. Yeah, people die. Or they're frozen, I don't know. But, but they need new heads. So they put entire humanity through this process of enlightenment for you to be recruited for the next, okay, we had the Rosicrucians, then we had Illuminati, then we had Masons, then we had this order, these Templars, that Templars, all slaves. But what do slaves want? For to be masters. And so, yes, and I remember this right at me too. Okay, it was all this erotic literature, but women were like this lioness that surrenders to the this or the that, and I'm like, goodness gracious, can we have like good vanilla sex, just intimacy, just liking each other? I don't know, nice, good sex. Is there a market for that anywhere? Nobody seems to care. Like, this seems to be boring. Okay, that's boring. I'll practice willing consent. I won't force them. But it's better not mess up with me, because that gets returned to sender, and they will be weeping and crying that you do that to me. I'm vanilla, baby. But I may have child assassin altars that could probably kill you, baby. So that's the spirit of the time. Yeah, a lot of fortune was definitely on the 22 when I was beginning this record. We're not at the full moon yet, but we are approaching. I think it's happening today for most regions. Sirius was rising this week. I missed the actual rise. I set intention beforehand, but I missed the actual rise of Sirius. So if you have one of the like what light, what shade was it in your area, I would love to get Sirius updates from yes, my viewers or colleagues watching this. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.